Today we find out if Anti-Venom will truly be the cure to what ails the meta. Find out what's going on as I hereby invite everyone to join me on my adventures through Marvel Snap. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So, we finally got the last card in the symbiote season. It feels like this season's gone on forever. And the last card that we have for this is going to be Anti-Venom. Anti-Venom got his start with Eddie Brock. You see, after Eddie had been stripped of the Venom symbiote, he found out that not only had he lost the symbiote, but he was also losing a battle against cancer, and decided to spend his last days volunteering at the F.E.A.S.T Center, an organization founded by Mr. Negative, who wanted to do something nice for the struggling former villain, and decided to use his powers to heal Brock of his cancer. Anti-Venom is not a relative or descendant of Venom. Instead, he is an altered version of the original symbiote that got accidentally awakened as while he was being cured of his cancer. He also unknowingly had some dormant leftover Venom cells in his bodies that then started to fuse with his white blood cells. And when the Venom symbiote tried to rebind to him, these altered white blood cells created this symbiote to stop that Venom from attaching back to him. Anti-Venom is mostly known for his healing properties, but he also has a vicious touch to any other symbiote, as he will burn them upon his touch. His genetic memory is also unlike any other symbiote, as not only does he have the knowledge of his host, but of anyone he touches. With just a single touch, he can draw upon their memories, their experiences, and their lives. All of their memories are at his fingertips, which gives him a tactical advantage in any battle against any of his enemies. Anti-Venom, unlike the plethora of other symbiotes, has absolutely no control over the body shared by the host. And when the host uses the symbiote powers, he has complete control over his actions, and is not pulled into any dark direction by the symbiote. Depending on what the host does, this can be a good thing or a bad thing, as he gets any glory for the good things he does. But he is also not able to blame any of his bad actions on the mindless nature of a symbiote. Anti-Venom brings a lot of benefits to the table. He has all the powers of Spider-Man, but with a far more powerful spider sense. He can heal himself and he can heal others. Not only of diseases, he can also cure people of drug habits, remove toxins from their bodies, and much more. In some cases, he can go so far as to cure superhumans of their superpowers, putting them at risk of losing any of their powerful abilities when they fight against this symbiote. Anti-Venom is the altered version of a symbiote that got accidentally awakened by Mr. Negative, who was mostly known for their healing properties, and can go so far as to cure superhumans of any power. This is represented in Marvel Snap, as when they come onto the scene, they will alter your next card, making them better by having them cured of any of that bad, nasty energy. But they will also accidentally cure them of any of their power. So in Marvel Snap, what this card is, it is a 4 cost, 7 power card, with the on-reveal ability of the next card that you draw, or the next card on the top of your deck, I should say. You will set the power of that to 0, but you will also set the cost of that to 0. So whatever a card is on top of your deck will be a 0, 0. Okay, so in my opinion, this card is a little bit better than a lot of people are giving it credit for, and a little bit worse than a lot of people are giving it credit for. So when I came down on the star rating, this fell right into the 3-star rating, and let's talk about where I came around this. So the first thing that we got to talk about when we're looking at this card is just the power spike that exists on it. So if you were to just take this as a pure power spike card, you're looking at basically playing a Stegron. It's a 4/7. It pretty much would be considered doing the same ability as a Stegron would, where it has a kind of upside. Now, you can't get around the negative upsides of this by playing stuff like Howard the Duck, so you can see what the next card is. So you know that the next card you're pulling is a good card. Would not recommend that in any way, shape, or form. You can also get rid of some of the negative power by just playing the Luke Cage. Now, a thing that you have to know about this particular card is you have to be careful that after you play this card, you also do not play something like a Korg. Because if you play this on 5 with a Korg, if you play this first and then play the Korg second, you technically shuffle your deck. So if somebody plays a Korg against you after you play this down, your deck gets shuffled. Same thing happens if you try to play the Jubilee in here. Jubilee will shuffle your deck. So there are some ways that you can shuffle your deck after you play this, so do watch out for any shuffle cards. Now, while this card does make things 0, and you don't want to play things like F.E.A.S.T, I don't need to tell you not to put F.E.A.S.T in your deck if you're playing this. Because you don't want the F.E.A.S.T to be 0. Even with the ability that you might be able to pull it back with Shang-Chi. There are some cards that you just don't care about, you know. Yes, your Onslaught you can grab and it'll be 0. But playing down an Onslaught on the last turn is very powerful, where now there's an ability where you can go Onslaught, Mystique, and Silver Surfer all on the same turn, as long as you pulled the Onslaught. Same thing with if you pull the Silver Surfer in that. Yes, the Silver Surfer loses its 2, but that's not what you're using the Silver Surfer for. You're also good with playing something like a Wong, because you don't care that Wong is not getting that power because you're not losing that much. Now, there are some tricks you can use, like you can play this with a Dagger. Dagger already costs 0, so if she's a 0/0, that doesn't really hurt anything as her being a 2/0. Or if you're playing something like Ironheart, where Ironheart was a 0 anyways. Or anything that has that 0 power anyways. One of the perfect examples to playing this would be to throw a Sage in your deck. Since Sage already costs 0, or has 0 power to begin with, you pull this with Sage, and you get it at 0 cost. You're already setting up with stuff like the Silver Surfer and the Luke Cage and the Wong. You don't care that costs 0. There's a good ability to hit an Odin with this. And believe it or not, it doesn't work that bad with a Hela, because if you're playing the Hela, you're most likely playing the Luke Cage anyways. So there is a deck where basically you're running Silver Surfer, where there's absolutely nothing bad in Silver Surfer you can grab, except probably the Brood and maybe the Absorbing Man. It depends on where the Brood and the Absorbing Man even fall into that. So it has a deck, and that deck does exist. And in that particular deck, I can't see what you're replacing the Anti-Venom with. Because that Anti-Venom is actually acting as a second magic for all intents and purposes. It's giving you a second limbo. It's letting you play that card for free on a turn where you're usually trying to slip in the limbo. And even if you get magic with this, magic's not that good of a card normally stat-wise. You don't mind that being 0 to start off with. So there is a deck that exists. I would not recommend using Howard the Duck. In fact, that's one of the problems that this card does have. Because you don't have the ability to see what cards you're pulling, you have to basically load your deck with no bad drops. You don't want to throw Howard the Duck in here just to make sure that it works. Please don't do that. We're almost too silly to have a deck where it's based on Howard the Duck, where you're using stuff like the Jubilee and the Anti-Venom, and I think Blink is the top card, but I'd have to look at that. So, it has a place that places a very narrow range, though. Other than that, this week is horrible. Supergiant is not a card that anybody cares about. Playing this on 4, especially now, doesn't mean anything. Ghost Spider is one of those cards that somehow even gets cut from move decks nowadays. These two cards don't work well with Anti-Venom. You wouldn't want Supergiant with Anti-Venom. I mean, it's not the worst card to get off of her. Off of him, I should say. Since you can get it for still 0. And Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider, however you want to play this. Unfortunately, Anti-Venom doesn't work that super well in a move deck. And taking off 1 is not really what you're hoping for. You can use it on some of the 1-drops. But you're hoping to get the bigger drops, the 6s, the 5s. So, I don't think Anti-Venom is a good enough card to roll on if you don't already like the Silver Surfer, Machine Gun type of deck. Now, if you like that type of deck, I don't know if there's a replacement for this card in that deck. But other than that particular deck, this card's not really worth it. I don't know where else it squeezes into. And Supergiant and Ghost Spider really aren't worth getting at this point. I also wrote because this is how I make out that. So let's find out what we get in the box. Box is Anti-Venom. Alright, I'll try to make a deck with Anti-Venom this Friday if you want to see me. I want to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, remember, play for fun.